As natural wood species go, redwood is in a class of its own. A sustainable alternative to tropical hardwoods, redwood is grown and harvested to the highest environmental standards in the world. Named for the dark red heartwood at the center of the tree, redwood imparts natural beauty, warmth, and durability to interior and exterior building applications, including decking, fencing, paneling, siding, exposed beams and timbers, pergolas, and other shade structures. To learn more about redwood from Humboldt Sawmill, please visit getredwood.com. Dan writes, "Hey everyone, in a recent episode you had a brief discussion about framing manufacturing and economics. Ian mentioned something that piqued my interest. He said that in the near future, framing lumber will probably be made like OSB, with glue and small bits of wood. Can you talk about this a little more? Could this be a good thing for costs and carbon? I did a quick Google on this, but came up with nothing informative. Thanks in advance, Dan, weekly listener and all access member. Thanks for your support of the brand, Dan. That is awesome to hear. So, over the last few decades, we've seen, sheathing switch from sawn lumber to engineered products, first plywood, OSB. The forest products industry say these things use faster growing trees. They better use, what would be waste material slash in the forest. So, can you guys speculate on, what we can expect with, history as a way to guide what might happen? Grant, can you talk about it?
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing for the industry. And I think we're gonna continue to see it. I mean, say 5-10 years ago, a big trend right now is framing with LSL studs. 5-10 years ago, that wasn't as prevalent. Now it's becoming increasingly more prevalent. The benefit is, these studs, the engineering involved with taking them, it's almost like an OSB type product where it's strands laminated together with a adhesive of some sort. They're super straight. There's very little waste, if any. They come in very long lengths. There's a lot of benefits to them. There's some negatives.
It's expensive.
It's expensive, and some of these products don't do super well with moisture, like if you have a wedding event. But other than that, they're definitely things that they're here to stay. There's no doubt about that, and we're going to continue to see them be evolved. There's no question about that either.
What do you think, Brian?
I agree that it's probably, I think it's probably where building materials are headed if we continue down the road of, as mentioned earlier, of stick framing houses,
like wood frame, yeah.
The way we do things. But I don't know. I don't know I don't know enough about the carbon impact to know if it's actually a good thing, for the climate. And all things change as industries scale up. Things change, right? Think about cellulose insulation, right? For example, it's a great material for a lot of reasons. It's carbon storing and it is recycled. We start using enough cellulose insulation and no one is buying newspapers anymore. It's not going to be a recycled material anymore. A lot of the material that comes for engineered wood products has been byproducts of other wood industries. I don't know what changes in the equation when we're making these chips for a product. I don't know the answers to these questions. I love the fact that, we can have, potentially have, better material for the climate and a better performing material for the, the carpenter who's installing it. Right now, I think, it's because of the cost. I think they have like a stud, for example, an LSL stud has its place. You're doing something particular in the house that you want a particularly perfectly framed wall for. Great, use it there. To use it for a whole house is kind of crazy, unless you just want to drive costs up. I mean, a good framer can frame a wall with a few wonky studs. They know where to put them and they know where not to put them. Don't put them around your door openings. So it's just one of these. It's just will the industry head that way? Maybe. We'll see. And could it be a good thing? Maybe. We'll see. I don't know the answer.
Join us this September 18th and 19th at the beautiful Endicott College campus in Beverly, Massachusetts for the Fine Homebuilding Summit, where the best minds in residential design and construction come together. This premier 2-day event is all about elevating the way we design, build, and run successful, inspiring construction businesses. You'll hear from some of the most respected leaders in the industry as they share insights on the future of home building. You'll experience engaging sessions, interactive roundtable discussions, supplier exhibits, and hands-on networking. We'll also be recording a Fine Homebuilding Podcast live from the summit floor. Head over to summit.finehomebuilding.com to register today. Use the promo code FHB Podcast for $50 off the 2-day all-access ticket. Can't wait to see you there. What interests me about this is, folks tell us that there's very little embodied energy in sawn lumber because it's so minimally processed compared to other things that we use in our everyday lives. And
Right.
I'd be curious if, grinding aspen trees into chips to make LSL studs is actually less carbon intensive than sawing lumber. And I think it's probably a complicated thing to figure out.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of this, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't really jumped into it yet, this would be a great topic for a story sometime of diving into how these products are made, especially on the West Coast and like the timber capitals. But my understanding is a lot of this comes from like the waste product of solid sawing lumber is probably a decent stream, I would think. I know some of this stuff comes from like the waste of paper production. That's a huge down south, southern part of the United States. That's why
What are they making
always
with
used
that,
to
Grant?
they always used
what
to
are they
joke
making
like,
with paper waste?
well, it's the wood that comes off when they prep the logs to be pulped.
Huh.
So, like they always use what was it, Georgia Pacific? Like they always used to joke. There would be like there would be an OSB plant somewhere near the paper plant that was pulping because they would use all the scraps. So it's going to be interesting. It's good. There's some other benefits I think too. We talk about some strength. LVLs are very strong comparatively to maybe some of their sawn counterparts. So we'll see. I think it's just going to continue to evolve, and like everything, it's going to evolve regardless of what we want or don't want.
I'm guessing it's going to be carbon and cost driven going forward. What makes the most economic sense? I'm sure you all have seen them, but like sometimes there are molded pallets that look like they're OSB and molded into like kind of a Lego arrangement for lack of a better description. And I wonder, like, why don't we have sheathing and kind of studs arranged similarly? Why are we making two different components when we could be molding wood chips into virtually any shape? So I would be curious.
I mean, a lot of these plants too. The other thing I would say is like a lot of the timber plants, when we talk about if they're grinding up or processing, additional processing versus just solid sawing, a lot of them now they burn a lot of their bark and things like that to come off the trees, and they actually use a lot of that in like a recovery boiler to generate their electricity. So it's some of that, it will be interesting to see how that changes. If they're using more of those waste products for something else, or they just are would it need more electricity or more energy overall to do the process? It will be interesting to see what happens there too.
I gotta believe that part of what we're going to be doing with building products in the future is making it easier for non-skilled people to build houses, more panelization and stuff, because we just have a shortage of folks who are doing this work. We're going to need to make it less labor intensive somehow, or we're going to need to get more carpenters and builders. Is what we've all been saying, right?
Hashtag keep craft alive.
That's why we have him on the show, Brian. The segues are amazing.
I guess I'm in a segue type mood today. I know I was not paid by Patrick to make those. They are not in our script.